ji elaran IO ray SPLA IG. So lara mo bino jin ay nan ke ji ray SPLA IG jin so SPLA IO matera SPLA IG. So ilar kula benene yen la wali jogu matira nas yu nyur wali leni pesham leni peshwe leni nyamdu ke leni jodu ya ingat we are not titino ya ingat kejin gwai we are not titino gwa ko titin gwa ko bitet yang te kene de alia me ken gwa ko bitet ko no ti wona mo ti adu teka enuoro no teka mo. So we are not titino any mayitwo tane jina kondian lini jodu lini nyamdu lini peshwe lini pesha ko de yes peshwe de yes pesham de yes pesh nyamdu de yes jodu. So you ignore ya we jina no ti wono mot and a ginger adu ni na atira mangal ji we are not titino yang bai te yera kutira mangal ji. So nya lari babalare no odi goi ko bitutin. So shingnire rama biam kele shingnire rama te dorian kele malabe. So enyan shingi bi shingeji mate ka dormal malabim kana le lawa na toy ke pel na wa toy. So yen shinge anywhere ma we atin mana we ana we atino mani beauty mase vegetarian kwani shami William midi wene we kwani bisham we wana titin engama jale ke owe nenjek enya ni babala reno. There are things that the government of Salva Kiir have given South Sudan. One thing that have given South Sudan is the Toronto Boys. When Salva Kiir went to power, there were no thieves in South Sudan. We didn't have thieves in South Sudan. When Salva Kiir government entered, thieves started. And we had the famous Toronto Boys. I don't know if you have been a victim of Toronto Boys, but I have been a victim of Toronto Boys. There are people that have been victims of Toronto Boys. So, if you hear about Toronto Boys that people are using and selling everywhere, these Toronto Boys came up as a result of lack of jobs. They came up as a result of lack of money or lack of education. So Salva Kiir gave them no options than to become Toronto Boys. So every group, Toronto Boys are famous in South Sudan. And to make the matter worse, Toronto Boys had their own group. They had their own leadership. When a Toronto Boys is arrested, they release them in the evening. So I was like, okay, so Toronto Boys are part of the system. They had their own leaders. So the Toronto Boys now that exist in South Sudan came as a result of the suffering of this fake government of Salva Kiir. And then youths as young as 7 years, as young as 10 years, as young as 11 years, start drinking alcohol that is called Makwelwes. We have alcohol in South Sudan that is called Makwelwes. It's the cheapest alcohol in the history of South Sudan. So this Makwelwes is an alcohol that even kids are taking now. So from 7 years, you find them drunk. You find children are drunks everywhere. Why are they drunk? Because there's a lot of poverty in the country. And this poverty have been caused by President Kiir leadership. There's no instability. No money. Money are used for corruption, to fund conflicts. This money is used for the government children and also themselves, and buying V8s. They have V8s everywhere. They have big houses. They stay in hotels. They spend money on slave queen, because a lot of South Sudanese girls are being used by the politicians to go sleep with them so that they give them money. So the resources of South Sudan was even turned to misuse even a female gender. Because when you hear about slave queens, who are slave queens? Who are sleeping with slave queens? The people that are sleeping with slave queens are generals. You find out last time that Atenywe Kateng pregnanted somebody, and there was a news all over in Palm African Hotel. In Palm African Hotel, a lady that was pregnanted by Atenywe Kateng came with a news, with a radio, with all cameras, and she announced, and this is what happened. So when you hear about slave queens, don't abuse the slave queens, because these are people that have no money, but they have to feed, and there's no jobs. So what do? Then they go sleep with the generals, and generals, they buy them cars, they pay for their apartments. That's what they do. They sleep with them. So when you abused these slave queens, that you come out and you abuse them, they did not just start from nowhere. It's a result of this poor government of Salva Kiir. That's why we have slave queens.